Hey everyone, Alexa here from the blog theduvalhomestead.com, and today I'm going to be sharing 4 farmhouse spring recipes. These are all from scratch healthy recipes that you can make in the spring or summer, so let's dive right in. The first recipe we're going to make is creamy broccoli soup. This is a broccoli soup with cashews and carrots, so it's very healthy, very farm to table, and it's delicious. You can have it in the spring or summertime. It's light enough to enjoy during the hotter months, but also hearty enough to enjoy even in the winter time. So for this recipe, you'll need broccoli, celery, carrots, garlic, bone broth, onion, cashews, and sage. Let's get started. Start by chopping up the broccoli, carrots, and garlic. Add them to a large pot on the stove, and meanwhile, boil some water and add the cashews. Add all your veggies to the pot, and you're going to cook them until they are mostly cooked. Then you're going to strain your cashews and add those, mix it all together, add some bone broth if it's getting too dry. Add your seasonings, and this gets all mixed together with an immersion blender. If you don't have an immersion blender, it's one of my favorite tools in the kitchen. It's a great way to make soups. I also add some creme fraiche to this recipe, it makes it super creamy. For the next recipe, we're going to make a butternut squash ravioli. This recipe uses einkorn flour, which is a non-hybridized wheat version of your regular wheat all-purpose flour that you buy at the store, only it is a traditional ancient grain that has not been stripped away of any of its natural properties. So it has less gluten, more protein, and is easier to digest. So we're going to try using that with this recipe. And butternut squash filling on the inside with some herby sage and seasonings will make a really nice, refreshing spring or summer meal, and a nice version of pasta other than your traditional plain pasta with sauce. So you want to start by adding all your dry ingredients to a bowl, the einkorn flour and the salt. Then you're going to crack some eggs. Add some olive oil and mix that together. You're going to pour that right in the center of the dry ingredients, and then with a fork, kind of mash it up. You're creating a dough here. It's going to be a very thick dough, so eventually you'll have to use your hands, which I prefer anyway. And then you're going to cover it and let it sit. You always want to let the dough rest a bit. Meanwhile, you can make your filling. I'm going to be making a butternut squash filling. I love butternut squash, and it's a very healthy ingredient, healthy thing to eat. So I'm just going to add my canned butternut squash. I didn't have a real one because they're not really in season anymore. I added some sage and garlic and some creme fraiche, another one of my favorite ingredients. And then when your dough's ready, you can just cut it in half. And then roll it out with a lot of flour on a nice surface. You want to roll it out pretty thin. Try to make it a rectangle because you're going to be layering the other on top. Now this is because I, at this time, did not have a pasta maker. I have since gotten one, but haven't used it yet. But it's good to be able to make pasta without a pasta maker, and this is actually not that hard. After you put your filling in there, you're going to roll the second dough out, place it on top, and then just kind of make your ravioli. So I'm just pocketing each one, using a sharp knife to cut my squares. And then you want to boil your ravioli with some salted water, and it only takes a few minutes. Basically, once they start floating on the top, they're done. our third recipe, we're going to make a breaded chicken piccata. This is kind of a farm-to-table take on the classic chicken piccata that is normally butter, lemon, capers, super delicious. I started making it this way because I honestly never have capers on hand. Chicken piccata is probably the only thing I ever make that uses capers. So this recipe uses einkorn flour, which, as I talked about in another recipe, it is a non-hybridized wheat ancient grain, and it is higher in protein, lower in gluten, so it's a lot nicer to use for any kind of breaded chicken. So for this recipe, we're going to fry the chicken in butter and the einkorn flour. Once all of the chicken is fried, we'll add some cherry tomatoes, lemon, and some really nice flavorings to make kind of sauce out of it. So you're still getting that really rich chicken piccata type of dish. And the other thing is we're doing this all in one cast iron. So it's a one plate, one dish meal, which I always love to not have to clean multiple dishes. And then also you can just serve it right from the cast iron so people can pick their chicken out of the cast iron. I'm using chicken thighs for this recipe, boneless, skinless chicken thighs. I prefer to do this over using chicken breasts because chicken breasts tend to be a lot thicker, larger, take a lot longer to cook. And so the chicken thighs are smaller, so they cook faster and there's just more to go around. So let's get started. So you want to start by cracking your eggs into one bowl and then adding your flour to another bowl. You want to add a lot of butter and maybe some coconut oil to a hot cast iron skillet. Then dredge the chicken breast in the egg mixture first and then the flour. And you just repeat this process, laying them on the skillet, and you don't want to stack them, so you do them in batches. And then you flip them over when they start to get brown and crusty on the side. For the piccata, you're going to zest a lemon, cut up some garlic, some parsley, and some cherry tomatoes. It's so good. There are so many good flavors in this, and that combined with the butter is a really rich and delicious and flavorful meal. Alright, for our last recipe, we're going to make homemade guacamole. I know what you're thinking. Guacamole takes a lot of ingredients and a lot of time, and it's just so much easier to buy it from the store. But I have stopped buying it from the store because, first of all, it's very expensive. Every time I see it at the store, it's like $8 for a container. Now, if I was having a party or something with lots of people, I would probably just pay that. But we like to have guacamole every Tuesday when we have Taco Tuesday with tacos, which is what we do. Or it's a really great late afternoon snack, which I love snacking at about 5 o'clock in the afternoon because we eat a late dinner. We're not the kind of people who eat at like 6, and we just never have been. I've tried to make that happen and we just don't. We eat about 8 o'clock, which means around 5 o'clock we have to have a snack, and you don't want to reach for the cookies or a juice or something. It's so much better to actually eat something healthy. And guacamole is avocados and some seasonings, and then you can of course have that with a whole grain chip or something. We will just buy chips from the store. We try to buy the chips that are made with avocado oil so we can avoid the canola oil. But anyway, what I'm going to show you is the guacamole recipe that I have made, but the point is it's very easy. It requires very little effort because whenever I'm making tacos, I spend all my time on the meat and the tortillas and the cheese and everything, that by the end of the preparation I'm like, oh yeah, the guac. And so I wanted to make this really easy. So you're just gonna need a couple avocados, a lime, salt, pepper, garlic and onion powder, and then some cherry tomatoes. So let's get started. This recipe is so easy. You're just going to cut up your avocados, make sure they're nice and ripe so they're really soft, and then you mash them up with a spoon. You add your lime, your onion and garlic powder, salt and pepper, and then cherry tomatoes. Now if you don't have tomatoes, you could add a little bit of salsa or pasta sauce. I've done this before. But these staple ingredients together just make the best guac. All right, well, thank you so much for making these 4 spring recipes with me. I know that once winter is over and I finish eating the potatoes, the soups, and the roasts, all that really heavy food, I crave it in the wintertime, but then as soon as the spring starts hitting, I just get excited about the tomatoes and the chicken, guacamole, some of the lighter foods. So hopefully this got you inspired and excited for the warmer months to come, and you can start transitioning your cooking to be more aligned with what's in season, which is something I try to do. So as soon as the tomatoes start sprouting and the parsley is ready, you can just pull that from the ground or buy it from your local farm stand and cook up these great meals. Don't forget to pick up your copy of Homestead Living ebook, which will have all the recipes that I talked about today and much more. I can't wait to see what everyone has contributed. It is all about homestead living, starting a lifestyle from scratch, whether you have no land or a lot of land, no animals or a lot of animals. It's got so much information in there, and if nothing else, it is just a very relaxing read for anyone who's interested in the slower farmhouse kind of lifestyle. And of course, you'll find the recipes in there too. If you are brand new to my page, make sure you subscribe on YouTube and like on Facebook. Every week I post new farm-to-table recipes and homemade natural living from our homestead here in Duval. Thank you so much for stopping by the Duval Homestead.